Well, hello. My name is Nicholas Bell. I'm the chief film critic at IONCINEMA, and it is my pleasure to be speaking with film programmer Lars Nielson, who was a programmer at the Alamo Drafthouse and co-creator of the Weird Wednesday series. And we're here to talk about his new book, Warped and Faded: Weird Wednesday and the Birth of the American Genre Film Archive, which drops November 16th, courtesy of Mondo, right?
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's a pleasure to speak with you. I was happy to see this opportunity come up. I'm familiar with Kayla Janice's work. I have House of Psychotic Women, and this very much appealed to me in a similar vein to that. And she's recently had the documentary Woodland Dark and Days Bewitched, which is a documentary about folk horror I was also really into.
It's awesome. Yeah, yeah.
So I guess, this is such a massive undertaking. It's a very comprehensive book that is exploring the origins of the Alamo Drafthouse with Tim and Carrie League, and kind of ranges from the mid 1990s to May of 2010, where it segues into the American Genre Film Archive. There are, comprehensive interviews with kind of all the main players. If you could talk about from start to finish, how long did this take?
It took a few years, actually. I mean, well, I should say when I was writing these, the writing of these took, 14 years or something, because I was writing on a weekly, well, I was writing on a bi-monthly basis for our calendar at Alamo Drafthouse when I would write this stuff. So there are, it's a ton of write-ups. The bulk of the book is the write-ups that I would do that are basically selling copy, they're ad copy about each film. And that's the bulk of the book. But then all the work that Kayla Janice came in and did to interview people, to do the oral history, to commission the Weird Wednesday Hall of Fame, which are profiles of different filmmakers and other people that were important to the series. That probably took a couple of years in total, and that was a lot of work. I did some of that work, and then Kayla did most of that work, and she was a real bulldog on getting the book done. But yeah, the book as a whole was written over many years.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think you can tell there's a lot of love that has gone into this, and the layout, and yes, all of the write-ups, which I love because you have the day that they screen within the series. I mean, I love everything like that. But you've really created kind of what you talk about in your introduction is this kind of written publication of the kind of things you were influenced by, like Shock Cinema and Psychotronic Magazine. It's kind of bringing it back to, that's kind of as a tool people can have.
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, I do think that I would sit, were I not myself and were I a civilian, I really would have this sitting by my bed in the same way that I had the two Psychotronic books and then Stephen Pachowski's compendium of Slime Time, of Shock Cinema stuff, and all of his magazines and the Danny Perry's Cult Cinema books and all that stuff that I was reading. I really do feel like I would have that sitting next to me, and I would be kind of going through it and making lists of films that I wanted to see.
Yes, which is exactly what I did in the 90s as well. I like how you reference a time before the internet was really caught up, when you really had to search for a lot of these kinds of things and you would become aware of due to the reverence with which someone wrote or spoke about them.
Yeah, and sometimes you would be, it kind of went back to me to reading like punk rock zines when I was younger. It wasn't even so much that like, oh, this thing that got a great review, I've got to go find. It would be within the body of that review, some other record is mentioned that it really sounds like I should know what that is.
Right.
He mentioned the Stooges. I really should know what the Stooges is, right? Because he's talking about the Stooges. And it would be stuff like that where I would feel like, oh, okay, I'm way behind. I got to rush and catch up. And so, yeah, sometimes like it wouldn't be so much even that just reading Mike Weldon's review of Andy Milligan's Bloodthirsty Butchers would thrill me. It would be like within the course of that review, he says, if you're an Andy Milligan fan, there's really no hope for you. And that, of course, made me want to become an Andy Milligan fan, which I successfully was able to do, I will say.
Right, right. Yes, and that is very much how your book, I am a film nerd, and I have only been to the Alamo Drafthouse in Los Angeles because I did not have the pleasure of being in Austin while this series was going on. But the sense of, I really, it brought me back to how much I really don't know about some things, because I love all of the write-ups in this from some of the main players. And just to throw, for instance, out there, like Jama Fanaka's, I'm a huge fan of the penitentiary films. And just even in that write-up, I'm like, oh, there are several titles in here I really need to know about that I have not seen. And I guess I also wanted to touch on this feeling of the availability of everything now, because even with this book coming out, there will be screenings of some of these films in there coming out, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I know that Brett over at AGFA is pushing this package out to like a lot of different people in the draft house, the various draft house locations are picking those up, and I've recorded some intros for some of this stuff. Yeah, like I don't know, it is a question that I've gotten a bunch, and it's a thing that a lot of people ask about is, how does it make you feel? Does it make you like unhappy to know that all the obscure films are now like well known? I guess maybe it would if all the obscure films were so well known, but what's happening is like a few of these films are kind of coming to light. But for everyone that comes to light, some new discovery is made. You know what I mean? It's
right.
Almost like the hand of God is reaching back in the timeline and kind of retconning the whole game and dropping like some amazing film right there in 1977, and then we're discovering it. So I don't have any sort of. I'm so happy that the films that are coming out because I don't really care if there's some sort of province of the entitled, and we're the only ones that are able to see these films. I want other people to see it, and I'm sure that there are enough obscurities to always circle around all of us in a cloud of obscurity that we kind of reach into the air and pluck one out of every once in a while.
Right, I agree. I mean, you still have to do some amount of work to navigate all of this, because there's so much. But a lot of these films in here, it's funny that I've amassed over the years, like new prints from Arrow Video. Kino Lorber is putting out all this great stuff, and but there is some, a slight twinge of, I find myself having to say, do you know how much I paid for that on VHS? Do you know how much Freaks cost me on VHS in the 90s?
Yeah, no, you know what? Nobody cares.
That's true. That's the truth.
Nobody cares, and nor should they. And you should let it go. Let's face it.
Right, I agree. I've thrown all of those away long ago and have much better prints now. But so I guess there is so much, and we have so little time to talk. I guess I just wanted to reference some of your favorites, maybe.
Sure. I mean, there's a book full of my favorites. It's interesting because a lot of times, particularly in the early years, it would just be, I would be choosing from the stuff that we had access to. So there would definitely be weeks where we'd play kind of a dog movie, like, I don't know, Beyond Evil or something. It's like an okay movie, but it's not that great.
Sure.
So, and in the course of the book, because all the write-ups in the book are ballyhoo, they are sales copy, they're ad copy. What I'm trying to do with those write-ups is not so much to say, this is the film, it's to say, this is why you have to come see this film this week. You absolutely must drop everything. I know it's at midnight, but you've got to come. So, selling it, yeah. So, if you can read between the lines, you can really tell which ones I'm excited about and which ones I'm not excited about. So yes. I think it's I think there's almost kind of like a process of decoding. And at this point, I'm so far away from all these films in terms of years and in brain cells lost due to misadventure and so forth that I can kind of go back and read like, yeah, I really wasn't that excited about this film, but oh my God, I really wanted everybody I knew to come see this film. So it's all there in the book. frankly, I'd have a really hard time just now on the spot kind of picking out some of my favorites because
Sure.
I'm flipping through it right now and it's like, there's a favorite, there's a favorite, there's a favorite. Mostly they're favorites, frankly.
I do get the sense of, I mean, I do like how you have some of these write-ups in there, because obviously my eye navigates to things I'm familiar with, but Tintorera, for instance, you described as when you open the film can to inspect it, it smells like baby oil. It's those kind of details that are really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because that movie is so sleazy.
It is. That is a film I show to people when they come over. It's almost unbelievable that it's this movie about this threesome that doesn't work out. But you yourself, I love the Weird Wednesday Hall of Fame and reading through all of those. And you contributed essays on Gary Kent and Joe Sarno.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I'm not familiar with Joe Sarno's work. I know who he was, but definitely interested in checking out what I can get my hands on.
You can get your hands on a lot of Sarno at this point, so I really recommend that you catch up with Sarno. He's like, it sounds like from the little I know about you now that you're really going to appreciate Joe Sarno's movies.
Okay, yeah, I mean, yeah, but even the way you write about him and kind of with his wife's contributions to kind of female agency and his influence by Ingmar Bergman, I'm very that's actually what I'm doing after this interview is seeing what I can buy. And you know, I love the write-up by Carlson on Susan Tyrrell, who I've always been a huge fan of, and there were things that I didn't know even in that, you know, smaller write-up about her life. I thought that was kind of very touchingly, it was very eloquently written.
Yeah. She became an Austenite all the way. Even though she hated me personally, I was honored to have been able to put together her memorial service. It was a really special event. I loved her dearly. She really wished I had never been born as a human being whom she hated. But I really thought she was wonderful, and I loved her. And all the stories about Susan Tyrrell that we can't tell could fill a book of this size.
Oh, I'm sure. And I did see that blurb in there about because she was flown in for a screening of Nightmare Maker, right?
Yeah, Night Warning, aka Butcher Baker.
Night Warning.
Yeah. Same movie. Yeah.
Same, yes, by the several different titles, but where I read you were verbally disparaged. That's fitting. But afterwards, you came to
she just she disliked me from the very beginning, which is not an uncommon occurrence in my life. I'm sorry to say.
Oh, you know, watching interviews with her, I have a reverence for her, but she does seem. I'm sure if I met her, I don't know that she would like me, but I will always want to watch what she does.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, the schmucks that she liked, oh my god, made me so angry.
I'm sure. But it's just, I always had wanted a poster of the Night Warning, which I think is the VHS cover where she's covered in blood that I was never able to find. But
yeah,
I had a few fun movie nights with that in a double screening of Windows. But yeah, I don't know. All I can do is impress upon people that it's the kind of book you want to have to pick up and read through over and over again. As you become, because my initial response was I wrote a list of all of the films that I was really happy to see mentioned in here that I would have loved to be at a screening of at Weird Wednesday. And now, you know, afterwards is when I will go through and make a list of things that I need to see.
Yeah, well, that's good. I'm glad it's out there as that kind of resource. I also hope that people read it and they sort of realize that, like, culture of this sort, you know, which we were undeniably making culture. Like at this point, if you look at the world of these kinds of movies, we had an effect. There's an echo that's running through all of these kinds of movies that we were right there being part of, being in the mix, in terms of like kind of moving on from the Mystery Science Theater, you know, way of relating to these films, moving away from the so bad it's good way of relating to these films, which are totally great. And there was a whole generation that really, that was the way they got into these films, but moving away from that. But the thing is, in building that culture, we were really just having fun. We really just sort of built the microculture in our own heads of what we were into. And I'll speak for myself and Kayla and Zach and Tim. All of, just we had the stuff that we were really into. And we were into it because it sort of spurred on our sense of humor, our sense of whatever the value of entertainment was. And then we just went out there and had fun. And I think so much of building culture is just going out there and having fun. And that's what we did.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And finding, like-minded people to enjoy it with, and that are open to kind of experiencing something new at first too. Because Mystery Science Theater, I was brought up on that as well, and I remember moving away from some of these films I could really watch on my own and really enjoy, like The Leech Woman, for instance. Like I actually watched that more often without the MST3K track.
It's a really interesting movie about like deplorable men. Actually,
yes, right. It's doing so much more than something to just be laughed at because of the campiness or all of these films are really it's kind of imagination unbound and inhibitions unchecked and.
The Leech Woman is like a weird dream. I mean, it has a dream logic to it that's like the text of The Leech Woman is so much more than the surface that they're ridiculing. I've never seen a Mystery Science Theater.
Oh no, okay.
At all. So I don't know what they do. I just kind of have an idea. I think they're pretty smart, canny comedians. I'm not saying they're not. I just think that the way of I sometimes will say in an introduction, pretend it's a real movie, so that people will actually watch it with the same sort of critical rigor that they would bring to any kind of, entertainment movie. And so, I think that that's, rather than feeling like you have to rely on, a rather tired sort of, vocabulary of jokes and callbacks, to actually kind of take it in and provoke your own sort of mental stimuli to it.
Right, because it might be an entry point, but it's one that's born out of dismissiveness. I think when, if you watch, to bring up The Leech Woman again, I do feel quite badly for the Colleen Gray character.
Yeah.
Every time I see it. Which you don't get because you're too busy focused on all of the other stuff going on. When it's being heckled, but
sometimes it's sort of classist. I think like the way that people react to these movies, because I don't think, and it seems to be pretty movie specific for people, because I don't think the same people listen to the Cramps or the Ramones and say, "Oh, this is the worst,"
right?
It's craptacular music, I don't think they say that. I think they get it in music. In music, I think they understand that the spirit is there, even though it might be three chords. But those same people might turn around and be dismissive of films in a way that is completely alien to the way that they might interact with music.
Yes,
so
I agree.
I think most people, if they examine their own feelings, they would find that they're being inconsistent.
Yeah, it's about what you enjoy. Like what is bringing you kind of this experience that is actually enjoyable and not an Oscar melodrama that you feel like you have to sit through. But I feel like in as an undergrad, I had a professor tell me that, "Oh, you really like trash, don't you?" But he said it in a way that's like, "Well, yeah, but isn't that good?" I don't know. Anyhow, this is the kind of subject and this is the kind of world where I could really go on and on forever with you, I'm sure. But all I can say that it's a lovely book. It's already all marked up, my copy. But I recommend that if you're familiar with Alamo Drafthouse or not, genre cinema or not, like this is definitely something to check out, either as a starting point or as an examination of this cultural event that was created and is going on still, because there's draft houses all over. And to me, the Alamo Drafthouse in LA, we're lucky to have, and I think it's the best theatrical experience in Los Angeles. But all that to say, it was really a pleasure to get to speak with you today.
Well, my pleasure as well. And I look forward to the article, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Hey, this is Eric from IONCINEMA.com. If you want to support us, subscribe below. For more reviews, interviews, film festival coverage from Sundance, Cannes, Toronto, you want to check out these guys on this side.